but it's so cute.
Oh, you're cute.
Your brain has, you do. Your brain has a shell on it.
You both are cute.
Ian, nobody asked you.
This is about control, everybody knows, everyone complies. We're the kinds of pros, I don't need a plane, I just hit the road, I do what I want, I can't sell my soul, market about to crash, this is what you chose, ruining the country, I think that's the goal, you gon' take the mark, I take narrow roads, I'm a man of God, I can never fold.
All right, let me get my hat right. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Protect Your Purpose podcast, where we talk whiskey, business, friends, family, and freedom. I'm your host, Matt Marchese, and this is my co-host for the night and my beautiful wife, Lindy. Welcome to the show, honey.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome. You do that every time, and every time I make a comment, but it's so cute.
Oh, you're cute.
Your brain has, you do. Your brain has a shell on it.
You both are cute.
Ian, nobody asked you. And
If
just
you're enjoying the show, please smash that subscribe and like button.
go ahead, keep going.
It's absolutely free.
It greatly helps out the channel.
Yeah.
And also download our podcasts and share them on all the other podcast stuff. Not
Apple,
only YouTube,
Spotify,
like Apple, Spotify, yeah,
podcast,
iHeartRadio, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. Do that for us. We very much appreciate it. We're trying to change the world here, one purpose at a time.
Ooh,
I like that.
it.
Oh, I'm
There's a
onto
little ring
something.
to it.
Copyright it.
Yeah, write that down. I want a dime anytime someone says purpose. I doubt we'd get along. We'd
One
get
purpose at a time.
Yeah, 1%. That's what I wanted to say. All right, Ian, remember that down for the next one. Babe, what up? We're going to cheers. What are we drinking tonight? Let's
Cheers.
start there. What are you drinking?
I strayed away from wine.
I mean, I know what you're
Tonight?
drinking. Tell the audience what you're drinking.
I decided to go for whiskey tonight with my honey from Hamilton.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me as
no.
your honey.
But it's sweet and delicious and
Yeah, so you're drinking the Revelton honey. We drank that on a recent show, didn't we? Maybe Ian. Ian,
Yes,
did we
I
drink
did.
the Revelton honey on a show recently?
I know we drank the Revelton Irish liqueur.
Oh, dude, Revelton is our jam.
It is really good. Because isn't the Revelton gin, isn't that what you drink?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's it.
Dang.
Dude, Revelton is doing, we've talked about it several times on the show. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But dear friend of mine also partnered up with him to produce some of my product that we're rocking and rolling on. But, I make $0 from this. But, I mean, we've done several blind testings and tastings, and Revelton is crushing it. Their gin is crushing it. Their in-house made ryes and bourbons are now just starting to roll out, and they're killing the game. So, and it's in Osceola, Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 2 hours and some change away from the Omaha area.
go check it out.
Yeah,
It's
go check it out.
beautiful.
Tell
We
them.
should check it out.
Tell them. Oh, you want to go? All right,
I'd
let's
love
go.
to.
Today,
Wait,
it's
what are you drinking?
it's this morning. Oh, well, I'm drinking this Joseph Magnus cigar blend bourbon. It's pretty good shit. Yeah, it's really good. You're welcome to try some after you're done with your. Did you just jack my glass? You did. It's pretty good. It's kind of hard to find. It's allocated, but it's an MGP mixed with a Kentucky. So enough about the whiskey talk. Today,
What are we talking about?
I don't really know. I wanted to. I while considering what we're going to talk about, and obviously how we're going to bring value in a really jacked up world, where people are looking for security and safety, and aren't sure what they're going to do. You approaching your retirement soon. You're on the very tail end. We have to be very mindful and careful about what we talk about because you are still bound by the armed forces policies of those policies. But I figured we could probably talk about the armed forces and what that's done for you, what that's done for us, me, Ian, and kind of what it looks like nowadays. You know, you've got an interesting story, and you're coming up on 22 years. You will be retiring if all things go well and they stop fucking with you. Shit. I said the F word.
It's been a while.
I'm trying not to do it.
That's
There have
good.
been 3 or 4 times already where I held myself back. So we're going to do a tally. That's 1. I'm going to try and keep it under 5 all episode. Okay?
Ooh, okay.
Anyway, I think what we should talk about that will bring value, we're asked all the time, both of us being all three of us actually being former recruiters. Ian and Zach was also an Army recruiter. Ian was a Navy recruiter. You and I were both Army recruiters. All of you are recruiters longer than I was, but I was a better recruiter than all of you, just for the record.
I was a very good recruiter.
I was a very good recruiter too. Like
Amazing.
I said, I stand by what I said.
I mean, I would literally.
I said what I said, Ian.
They'd be hating life in the Army office, and me
No.
and Billy would
No.
just be
Stop
in our
it.
civilian clothes, eating chicken nachos, letting people roll in. Oh, go ahead and join the Navy.
That doesn't make you a good recruiter.
No, it's because for the first year, all I did was recruit people.
No, that
I
is lies.
It's not.
Lies
It's
and
It's
deceit.
literally what I did nonstop.
You lie like the president. You lie like that chick at the podium at the White House press secretary. What's her name?
Miss Liar,
John Pierre
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Lie face. Only one that could stand it and could hack for lying that long was Kayleigh McEnany. She did good, but she's not going to do that anymore.
Do you think any of them don't lie?
I think to an extent it's kind of their job to shade the truth.
Literally.
But these two chicks, these last two, I mean, they lie. They literally sit there and look at the American people who are jobless, paying $5 a gallon for gasoline and, outlandish grocery prices, have been forced to take a test drug, lost their job. They look them dead square in the end, can't afford their bills, can no longer afford, middle class can no longer afford a reasonable house. And they look at them dead square in their face and say, this is the best economy of all time. They lie.
Top flight's cure of the world,
Yeah.
Craig.
All you have to do is look at the numbers. Joe Biden has done more for America than any president in history. They tell you that inflation isn't real. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. I recently actually got into an argument with one of my friends over the weekend because he made the comment, he shall remain nameless. He's a listener. He knows who that he is. You see what I did there? To the point where he says to me, I believe in inflation. And I'm like, the fact that people have to say, I believe in inflation, and the reason why is because the left has put out such a radical narrative to where they have convinced people that if you believe in the inflation that is right before our eyes, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like inflation is some conspiracy theory. You are a liar. That's why
Pants
you
on fire?
No, I was a better recruiter than you, and I had
Well-
to work for it because in the Army, we have to work for our recruits. We have to go try and convince them that the Navy isn't the best thing in the world because they're always looking for an easy way out.
It was
We had to-
the Air Force. That's who you had to convince. It
Oh,
wasn't the
God, it was
Navy.
the same.
I always used to say, do you want to be on a submarine underwater for a year? No,
That was
no.
your line?
If they
That's
were
what they
like-
did. They
I
send
did it.
you.
I was on submarines.
I would
Not
say,
for a year, though. They don't send you underwater for a year.
Nope. I
Those
went.
are short
I went.
missions, aren't
I
they?
went 63 days once without seeing the sun. It's the longest I went physically underwater.
Dude,
2
that's
months.
still a long time.
Fuck, it's 2 months.
That's a long time
Yes.
underwater.
Ooh.
No way. Would you come up at night?
What do you mean by come up? Like there's periscope depth. The boat stayed submerged for 63 days.
Whoa.
So periscope depth, you literally stick an antenna and a periscope out.
Yep.
Other than that, though, I mean, we were on mission doing squirrely shit, and 63 days I did not see the sun.
That's serious,
Wow.
dude. So my question, one of the questions I wanted to talk about, which is something that we have spoken, I don't know, briefly about, it's never really been a major topic of our discussions, is what do you think, would you support our kids in today's world joining the armed forces? We now know there's no way we're supporting them joining the Navy, thanks to Ian, but I've thought about this quite a bit. As things change, I know we used to both support the thought of our kids.
I feel like at one point, maybe it was just me, but at one point I was like, my kids will do a short stint in.
Oh, really?
Yes.
At one point, you were going to mandate
I wanted them
like
to. Well, I wanted them to.
Yep.
Any branch? Does it matter?
No. I mean, I wouldn't want them to join the Air Force.
Why?
Promotions. I mean, there's several reasons why, but promotions are very, very slow. Everyone wants to fly. Like we would have people come in our office that would say, "No, I think I'm going to join the Air Force because I want to fly." And I'm like, "Well, I think 2% of the Air Force flies, or whatever the percentage is." But I would want Army because there's more, there's more
Advancement opportunity.
exactly.
Let me help you
Advancement
with your
benefits.
words too.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Weren't you a recruiter for like 10 years or something?
Yeah.
You don't have these words just
Nope.
memorized and ready to
I
deliver?
chucked them all out.
How the hell did you become? How were you a good recruiter? My wife was a very successful and highly decorated recruiter. What the hell happened to your sales skills?
I don't have it anymore.
You
know why?
dropped it?
Because I don't want my kids to join the military anymore.
Sure.
Like
Oh, so that
Not at
answers
all.
your questions. You don't.
I don't, but someone has to do it. Someone has to protect us. And
Yeah.
for me to say that I don't want my kids to sounds very terrible. But yeah, it's scary. And
So yes or no?
no,
No.
No.
It's that. That's a no.
it's a no.
Sounds like a
Right
very
now.
firm no.
In about 8 to 10 years, if things get better, which we all know they won't, it's only getting worse by the year, then I would obviously maybe reconsider down the road. But right now, the answer is absolutely not. No way.
Well, what about you? Would you let your girls join the armed forces today?
So yes and no. Yes, I would let them join.
It's not a yes and
It
no,
is.
Ian.
It
It's a
is,
yes
'cause I'm-
or no.
Nope, it is a yes and no because I would let them join the Navy or the Air Force and not the Army or the Marines.
Hey, did I tell you earlier that you sounded like one of them White House press secretaries for the Democrats that just stand up and lie? And you were like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, they get up and they talk out of both sides of their mouth and they're liars.
How do you do that? Do they got two mouths?
You just did it. Yes and no.
Because it works.
Yes,
I would
and
let them join the Navy or the Air Force, but
So the
not
answer is yes.
the Army or the
military.
Marines.
Yeah, the arm. Well, okay. Well, interesting perspective. Not the Army or the Marines.
I don't want them
Why?
to join a combat branch.
Would you let them get the COVID vaccine? Dun dun dun.
That changes it.
Yeah, it changes it.
Is that a requirement now?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
well, I didn't know if it changed.
Well, it changed that it's no longer required for continued service. They're not kicking you
Is
out
it a
anymore.
requirement though to get in now?
I mean, you got to assume.
Then, so if that's a requirement, then no, I would not want them to join because I don't want them getting that.
What if
Because I still believe in like 10 years, everyone's
what
going to
if-
be grasshoppers. Or
What if the
something because of
Navy
it.
goes completely woke, and it's on its way, and the Navy
I
will
mean,
be the
all branches are on
right.
their
The
way.
Navy will be the first one to do it, for sure.
Stop it, Matt.
It will.
All branches are.
I couldn't agree more. But you said the Navy or the Air Force, so we don't need to talk about all branches. We need to talk about the Navy and the Air Force, right?
I think the Air Force
Okay.
would do it before the Navy.
Well, that's because you're in the Navy. Us Army people that are
Was-
level-headed and
was-
right-minded, the only sane branch across the board,
Stop it.
we would be able to tell you
Stop it.
that it's not going to be the Air Force, it's going to be the Navy. But we'll call it the Air Force. Doesn't matter. We're splitting hairs here that don't matter. We're splitting your little dirty chin hairs.
On my chinny chin chin.
The question is, call it Air Force, call it Navy, because it is an Army or Marine Corps. I forget what I was even going to ask you now. You distracted me so much. No. If they went completely woke and they required males and females in the barracks, or allowed males and females in the barracks to use the same bathrooms, would you let your kids, or you let your daughters, your girls join?
I don't think that's ever going to happen, but no.
Why would you think that's not going to happen?
Do you know why women were
It's-
not allowed on submarines, Matt?
Hold on.
Do you know why women were not allowed on submarines?
I didn't know women were not allowed on submarines. So how would I
Because
know
they
why?
couldn't give them a bathroom.
Eh,
That's literally why
How
women
many
were not
years
allowed
ago?
on submarines. They changed it like 6 years ago.
No. Right. So they changed that. What'd they do? Give them bathrooms?
They gave them
Okay.
one of the 2 bathrooms.
Okay. Have you ever heard of middle school students or high school students having
I heard it last week.
non-gender? Right. Okay. So things are changing.
Oh, I know. I
Let's
agree.
assume the military is changing, because in our time in the armed forces, well, our time, you were out a little earlier, so you didn't get to see this, but we went from no gays in the armed forces while I was in the Army to don't ask, don't tell while I was in the Army to openly gay, doesn't matter, you're allowed, to they are now funding transgender surgeries, to they are forcing critical race theory and sitting us down in a room and lecturing us on how the white people in the room are racist and the black people in the room are victims of our racism. Okay? We have them on national television parading transgenders across the stage as military heroes who have never actually served in the military.
Oh, no.
What the hell makes you think that trans man or woman, whatever they are, trans woman, isn't going to be allowed to share a bathroom in the Navy with, say, I don't know, your daughter? If they were to allow that to happen, then would you let them?
I'd prefer not, no.
So you wouldn't support it, but you'd let them?
I say not support as in, so I mean...
I don't know.
I think
there's
when
no
you're-
right. It's not a.
Yeah, I think when your
stump the chump
kid's
question.
18, like, I'm not going to... In the grand scheme of things, I'll let them do whatever they want. I will
Yeah,
give
that's
them my parental
Sure.
guidance. Like, I don't think you should do this, but I'm not going to be like, no,
I'm disowning you.
you fucking adult, you're not doing this. And they're going to be like, well, fuck you, Dad. I'll talk to you maybe in 5 years. You know?
Yeah, you don't want to lose your kids, but would you? Let's not go with let them, because kids are adults.
I would strongly, yeah, I
when
would
you're
strongly
military age, you're an adult.
be like, hey, like, this is not what is best for you. Give them my parental guidance
Yeah.
they've had for their whole life right now. And I think for the most part, you know, obviously shit can change, but I think
Yeah, they
I
listen.
have their ear and they listen to me.
agree.
And also in the grand scheme of things, neither one of my kids, it's not even a thought in
It's
their,
not even a consideration.
no, I mean, they know just in general of what I think the status is of the military right now. And I didn't have a bad experience in the military. Actually, I loved the military. I only got out because I got full custody of my kids. But like you said, I got out a while ago, and it's a drastically different military than when I was in.
All right, so great answer. I figured this would promote at least a conversation that the majority of our listeners want to, are into. But to provide some internal perspective.
Can I ask you a quick question,
Yeah,
Matt?
jump on in right in the
Before-
middle of what I was going to say, Ian. Why not? It's bad enough that I have a hard time keeping up with my own thought without interruptions. No, what's up?
When we talk about things going woke, and yes, I know the Navy will do it even more, and all the branches will, but
Sure.
so is corporate America.
Well, yeah.
So if you're worried about your kid being in a woke business,
Yeah.
do you think a woke military is better than a woke corporate?
Yeah, a woke military is worse than a woke corporate.
Because you can't say no.
You can't say no. You can't quit.
You can't.
Yep. In corporate America, you can say, "Hey, I don't like what you're doing. I don't agree with this. You want to force me into doing something? Peace out." In the military,
point. Really
they
good
threaten
point.
your livelihood and they threaten to put you in prison.
Yep.
And they do what they did to me, which is call me a threat to national security. You are. Do you know what they do to somebody in the military who is a threat to national security? They start saying things like, "You're treasonous," or "You're a traitor," and these things carry big time sentences.
Drastic.
Yes. So here's my advice, and that's a perfect lead in for my advice, is if
why I
you're the
did it.
type of person that is willing to fold and bend and do what anyone tells you to do and basically become a part of the ultimate social experiment when you fall under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, when you fall under complete control, there's a lot of benefits into joining the Army. But if you are like me, and I always have been like this, the Army has gotten way worse.
For sure.
I could tolerate it 22 years ago when I enlisted. I was able to toe the line and walk a tightrope and know where and when I could get away with it. But if you're an outspoken person, if you're, deep in your convictions, I would advise, if you believe anything like what I believe, the United States Armed Forces today is not for you.
I will completely agree with that.
It's not. With all the benefits that come along with it, it's not for you. Now, here's the problem. The people like me, and my wife, and the many of our friends who are currently still serving or have served in the armed forces, who are very strongly convicted, passionate people and true to their beliefs, those are the best soldiers. Those are the people we want fighting for our freedoms. The ones who take our freedom all the way to the level of I will die for this. The people who are willing to die for what they believe are absolutely 100% the best soldiers. They're the ones that the books get written about. They're the ones that make the highest levels, in combat. They're the ones who pay the ultimate sacrifice. The rest of them are deployment dodgers, I won't go into bashing our armed forces or some of them, but they are not the ones that the books are written about. They're not the ones that are fighting and dying for our freedom. It's the ones who are willing to die for what they believe in. The problem is if the people who are willing to die for what they believe in no longer join the armed forces.
Well, just not that, Matt. You've talked about this too, is they got forced out because they came out with this thing called the vaccine.
There's going to be, if we sit here and say, well, I want my kids to do this and I want them to fight, and we all say, well, I'm not going to let my kids do that, or I'm not going to support them, knowing that the kids are probably going to be the ones who are raised by the parents who teach them, you live and die by what you believe in. You don't cave. Then we're just left with a bunch of people that are just they don't have any real drive. They're not going to die for freedom. They're going to bail. They're going to do whatever it takes to protect themselves. And now we've got a problem. Mm-hmm. Now we've got a real problem if that happens. So I don't know. It's hard for me. It's hard for me because I believe in fighting from the inside, which is why it took, everything, I don't know, for me to exit how I did, getting forced out. I mean, they
I was about to say they didn't give you much of an option.
No, but I don't know, man. I feel like I could have grinded. I don't know. I will always probably have some level of regret just for not fighting harder and for not fighting more and for literally not fighting to the death. But at the end of the day, the people have spoken.
Hold on, man. I think you're kind of not giving yourself enough credit. The reason why you got forced out is because you did not take a knee. You stood up for what you believed in. You made your convictions well known. So yeah, don't get it twisted, man. Give yourself more credit. That is why you are out of the military, is because you fought. You stood for what you believed in. You did not get the vaccine.
It was the highest level of persecution you could imagine. Like 4D persecution. They just point the guns at you. You go. I'm not going to get into that any further.
Kids.
Yep.
To the kids.
Kids. It's about the kids.
Would you let your boys join the military?
I don't know, man. The answer is no. As long as it is, if it was today. Now, my kids are not military service age, so the answer if it was today, no. I would tell them, look, you're a grown up. You can do whatever you want to do. But I would like you. I would highly, highly, highly influence them to not.
I got a question for both of you.
And I would put every ounce of what I have in my arsenal I would weaponize everything but my love, my finances, everything in order to save them. If it was today.
That's so sad. It's heartbreaking because
it's heartbreaking.
As much as I would love to see my kids in uniform and be so proud of that, it's just a different feeling these days. So what was your question?
So let's just say there's no wokeness going on. The military is the military that all three of us joined in.
Let's go.
Is there any difference between letting your boys join and letting little Miss Cora join?
Well, that's excellent segue again.
Boom!
I swear to God, we did not talk about any of this prior to. You didn't talk about anything. But I wrote down one of my things is life as a female in the Army. Everything from, I wrote down 4 bullet points: deployment, training, being a spouse, and a mother. While being a mother, while being a female, as a mother of a daughter, I guess you could probably answer Ian's question first. I have my answer. Would you treat your daughter any differently?
I wouldn't let her do it either, but I would. I mean, I think it's.
And this isn't a non woke military. So if it was the military that you joined,
Yeah, absolutely. My parents let me. I would do it. I would let her
100%.
Yeah.
good,
I would too.
for sure.
100%. It
I'd
would be
more hesitant,
right?
but-
Are you sure?
So I would be more hesitant too,
You can go to college.
except for I would also look at the other side, and ultimately I would probably be more proud
Yeah,
at the same time.
my parents.
Definitely a difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Difference equal though in my decision, I would say yeah, absolutely.
I
For
never
both.
had any family in the military at all. So, and I was the baby of the family. So, that my parents saying yes to me is way more shocking than to have both parents as veterans say yes to our daughter. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Like it would be, we have experience.
I mean, you guys are literally the most patriotic couple I've ever met,
44 years.
We're a
of
threat to
experience.
national security.
and yet you're patriotic.
So,
Yeah.
so I, yes, if it was how it was when I joined, yes, absolutely, I would.
Yeah, dude, we got called a threat to national security. And when I told people that, their freaking heads would almost spin off.
When this is the same couple that 6 months to a year prior, I mean, these two that you're seeing on the screen were military superstars, both highly decorated,
Oh, pre-COVID?
literally superstars.
Yeah, pre-COVID? Oh, we were
I mean, they had that BDE, that big dick energy in the military.
oh, we walked around. Listen, not talking about that. Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about. I'm going to move to we're coming up on time here. It's going quick. Time flies when you're having fun. I always love having these conversations with you. We get to kind of look each other in the eyes and have deep conversations. Today we decided we're going to take it a little different route. Lindy wanted to lighten the mood.
Yep.
She didn't want to have anything too dark or too deep or too. So we're bringing some fun energy, some funergy. We're avoiding going down the dark paths if you haven't noticed.
And avoiding those
You've
F-bombs.
You've almost.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me. It's very hard for me. You put a microphone in front of me and you start talking about the armed forces and the woke Americas, and they drive me up a wall. Anyway, let's move into some value. I want to talk about some positives in the armed forces.
Okay.
Good. 'Cause
And-
there's a lot.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah, there's a
None
lot.
of us would be here. All three of us.
That is
and
correct.
Zach, too.
That is correct. Number one, none of us would have met, including me and you.
Correct.
We met overseas. I owe a great deal of the most valued things and people in my entire life, not even to get into the knowledge and experience that the United States Armed Forces gave me, the leadership ability, perspective of all of those things. I want to talk a little bit about what you think or what the Army has given to you or what your most valued aspect of the Army is or of the military as a whole, if you want. And then we're going to next, so you know, the next topic we're going to talk about is the financial incentive, the retirement aspect, and stability on that. So leave that part out. Save that for the next one. Other than financial,
Oh, great.
what's your biggest plus or biggest positive takeaway from your 22 years in the
Oh
armed
my
forces?
God, that's such a loaded question.
I know.
There's a few things. Overcoming hard
Shit.
overcoming hard shit. The way, just values as a whole. I think that I've learned so much with how to speak to people, how to tell people, how to stick to your guns, like you said. I've had a lot of wonderful, wonderful memories. The Army has most of the time allowed me to do what I needed to as a mother to take care of my family most of the time, not the whole time. I've met some incredible leaders that have taught me a lot. I mean, obviously, you would be
the big prize, Lucky Lindy.
the number one thing
Yeah.
that I got out of the military wholeheartedly is you. I mean, I completely would not be where I am at all. So
Yeah,
I think
same.
we all know that.
I think there's
But
a
I'm just so thankful that I met you so early on in my career, so we could build my career, together. They allowed us to stay in the Midwest because of recruiting. You can go wherever you want. And I chose to stay in the Midwest. I turned down promotions really to stay here, because if you want to grow in your career, you have to take, what comes along with it, and that's moves. And so I chose to keep my family in the Midwest for, Serve Pro and roofing and all of that. And they honored that. They let me stay here and do a lot of my career here.
Not a takeaway.
Can I add something for Lindy?
Yeah, of course.
So, Lindy, just knowing you, knowing why you joined the military and knowing how patriotic you are, I think one of the biggest things that the military allowed you to do is serve the people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially the reason why you joined, to make a difference, and it allowed you to have a job that mattered, and made a difference in the world, and
Yeah, it gave
Give
me
you
purpose. I essentially have been in sales or, recruiting and retention for 18 years. So being able to help people every single day, watch their careers. I'm friends with almost everyone that I've put in the Army on Facebook and social media, and to see them grow throughout their careers and go from nothing in Memphis, Tennessee, or Lincoln, Nebraska, or wherever, to see them have a life and have a family, and either following in my footsteps as well, because there's several recruiters out there who have grown their careers so much. That's been one of the very, very best things, for sure.
I'll speak on behalf of you also. I was kind of whispering purpose. I've watched you grow from a young girl that I met that was got to be 20.
crazy.
And a touch nutty. You were a hair, a smidgen, just a smidgen cuckoo for
You
Cocoa
made
Puff.
me that way.
Well, that's debatable, but we all know whoever made you that way, you were cray cray. We know that.
I was a girl. I
But
was a teenage girl.
yeah, you were young. And when I met you, you had zero desire to become a leader. You were a young specialist, and when I met you, you said, "Oh no, I had just made sergeant. Like I was grinding, and I was already pushing for staff sergeant. I was ready to rocket shot to the top of the rank structure. Didn't want the responsibility at the time. You didn't want to be a mom.
I never wanted kids.
You weren't interested in kids. You weren't interested in being a leader. You weren't interested in getting promoted. You were just interested in having fun and boys and dancing and all the shit you were. And what the military did for you is it gave you an opportunity to rise up and become a leader to not only your friends, your community, all those soldiers that you talked about, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of soldiers. And as you said, you have produced soldiers that are now leaders producing soldiers. You've produced leaders, and you never give yourself enough credit for this. But what the Army allowed you to do was become a leader in a perfectly aligned purpose for you. Patriotism and helping others and doing it. The Army recruiting and retention allowed you to get exactly where you needed to be as, one of the peopleiest people in the world. Or at least that I know.
In the history of people-y people.
History of people-y people, it has allowed you the perfect opportunity to find purpose and serve your purpose as a leader in the most patriotic of ways, leading by example for people that you're trying to help. It truly allowed you to become a leader. So, and then of course, the other aspect, you decided you changed your mind. I don't know when that happened. I wish I remembered when. Certainly it wasn't me convincing you. Maybe I just said, I'm going to have kids. So if you're in, great. If you're not.
That blew my mind you said that. I would have never guessed in a million years that used to be your thought process. You always wanted kids, didn't you, Matt?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no doubt I was having kids. I was planning on having 4. I've got 3. We'll see.
No.
I mean, you
I'm
did
just
make
saying.
You did make an announcement like 10 episodes ago.
Yes.
Well, we're still drinking whiskey.
Oh, yeah,
Still-
that's true.
right.
That's true.
We're still drinking whiskey.
So the day that stops and you're not on 75 hard,
That's right.
I got some questions for you guys.
That is correct. Yes, but maybe we can disguise that by going on 75 hard. So maybe the next
for
time
a
we're on
year.
75 hard, it could be. We don't know. Ask
I'll be at-
questions.
Everyone, I will ask the questions.
We'll
I
just
will
la-
ask them. I'll
we'll just-
look in their eyes.
We'll just do what
Lindy,
we'll just do what
are
those,
you pregnant?
We'll just do what those press secretaries do.
Matt,
And
did
what
you
you
not
do.
pull out?
We'll say it's a yes and no.
It's a yes and no. He tried.
I see what you
Yes,
do. I
yeah,
see that little jab
Yeah.
there.
Anyway, it has allowed you to become an awesome leader, not only to those in the military and your friends and your community, but also your family. And I think the military was probably the best decision you could have ever made. I think you needed it.
I have no idea where I'd be, what I'd be doing.
Amen.
You're
truly-
destined.
Yes.
It was your destiny.
It was
100%.
100%.
Friendships for me, friendships and relationships were huge. I have friends ever since I was a young man. I mean, I was 21 years old and had traveled all over the world at that point. I think when I was 21, I had been to like maybe 14 different countries because I traveled before with my brother all over Europe, and then I was able to travel again when I was deployed on my R&R. So I was able to see the world at a young age and then meet friends. I came back and as a 21-year-old kid, people were like, "You've got friends in California? You've got friends in Alabama? You've got friends in New York? And I'm going, man, I've got, from basic training to advanced training to deployments to, it's just what the military does. I mean, it shrinks the world for you. It brings people all over the place to one location. And next thing you know, my network started spreading. So the network and the relationships was huge. But and of course, aside from bringing me my wife, brought me here, brought me all my friends, I believe a lot of my opportunity, it unlocked some of my superpowers too. It gave people who otherwise would have just thought I was a young, dumbass kid, belief in me as a soldier and as a leader. So I was able to kind of start performing at an earlier age.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, my family is the biggest thing that I got from my biggest benefit that I got out of the armed forces. But I was able to see big business in the Army at a high level when I was 17 or 18, 19, 20. I worked for a transportation command unit where I got to work in like a general staff from when I was a young kid. And basically the Army's the military's a business.
100%. It is a business.
Yeah, I got to see billion-dollar budgets and shit. Like, it was really cool what I got to do. And then I was given opportunity after opportunity in the Army to kind of be a part of those high-level meetings, which I wish nowadays I would have appreciated just a little bit more, but I appreciated them at the time.
When you didn't know how important that, you know what I mean, at the time.
Dude, I was just a kid, I even when I did appreciate it, I still was like, man, I want to get to the pool, I want to get to the girl. I'm ready to go, boss. I gotta go dance, right? So even when I did appreciate it, my priorities weren't always in the right spot, but I made it. And I guess the value
And
to
you also knew from the very, very beginning that you wanted to own your own businesses someday. So
oh yeah.
the leadership skills that the Army gave you throughout your career, I feel like there's so much to take from that into what you've been doing the last 10, 15
man,
years.
leadership and sales and business.
Even the way you run your business, really.
Oh yeah, rank structure,
Right.
organizational structure. I mean, tracking systems, all sorts of my business practices. I mean, even the language. I use the words mission, deployment when we deploy our resources, deployment, mobilization, redeployment. Like I use after action reviews. I mean, our acronyms, our language, standard SOPs, standard operator procedures. I mean, a lot of what I learned in the armed forces I applied to today. And I mean, I was going to pivot to value. For the people out there, we get asked all the time, being, having a combined nearly 45 years of military service with just Lindy and I, people, and a lot of that time spent in recruiting and retention. We are a good don't know, central hub for a lot of our friends and family members and friends of friends and family members and friends of family members. They come to us when their children or grandchildren or spouses or even themselves are considering the armed forces. And we've always had such a positive, we've always been very pro-military and very pro-service, even through, the peaks and valleys that is the military, the peaks, the letdowns and the highs. All in all, it was a huge benefit. The military is what you make of it. And if you end up going in and serving, we kind of laid it out. If you're of the belief on the far right now, and you're, super convicted, I'd probably steer clear. It's a big ass social experiment, and they're always going to use us first.
How many shots have we gotten?
Oh, and been called an anti-vaxxer. That's my favorite. I've been stuck with every vaccine under the damn sun except for one, or now 5 or 6 or however many they put out.
Remember all those anthrax shots that were the same thing?
Dude, everything. And now, Ian, this is supposed to be lighthearted.
Damn it, Ian.
Ian, cut that part out.
I think there's a lot of value. If you're into that kind of shit, then rock and roll. We need good soldiers.
Damn right.
We need good sailors, airmen, and Marines. We need strong people. So if you can figure out a way to do it, or if they drop the requirement for that vaccine and you're willing to kind of toe the line on some other perhaps non-negotiables, or perhaps, just I don't really agree with it. As many good people as we can get in the armed forces, I would recommend it. I think the deal breaker would be the trans movement. Rape is already a thing for women, men in the armed forces. A lot of effed up shit goes on. And I don't know, I think that's going to get worse. I'm hopeful that it doesn't, obviously. But I think that's a big problem on the horizon if they don't get that fixed. And I think the leadership is like anywhere in big business and in big government, the leadership has less and less say so because they're under threat of arrest, threat of punishment, threat of losing their career. And unfortunately, even though it goes against most of the creeds that we recite, that you won't use your grade or position to attain pleasure, profit, or personal safety, or putting yourself last, selfless service, honor, integrity, duty, personal courage. I think all those things are kind of fading, even though they say the words. They're just words. They say them and then they don't live by them because it's all about protecting themselves. So I think we've got some problems on the horizon there. And at the same time, I think the way we fix them is not, it's from the inside out.
Yeah.
Or it's from the people like me and soon to be you, getting on the microphone and telling the real stories of what goes on. Like telling people that I was called a threat to national security, like as if I was some terrorist. And then when I tell people that, they're in disbelief because they have no idea what actually goes on within the ranks of the military, So I think there's some ways to save it. A lot of it's going to be done internally through really good politicians can help. Politicians have a huge influence over the armed forces and the things that go on. They just don't use them because they're ran from the tippy top. But local elections and all that, they can help. Let's real quick before we wrap this thing, the financial benefits of the armed forces. So I've been thinking about this a lot. As you approach retirement, as my time is now up, we've been fortunate enough to even, running our business, having your career as sort of the only, at times, the only stability we had. Mm-hmm. TRICARE, great health insurance included in your bills. If you can go back and do it all again in today's society, knowing how much health insurance costs, knowing what that all is it worth it for the financial benefit alone, in your opinion?
I think so.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What if you had to take the COVID shot?
Nothing is worth that to me. Nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Nope. No, take that out of the situation, which I'm not sure if they still make you. If someone knows, tell us in the comments. I don't know. I can probably do a quick search.
You definitely could look that up.
But I could call a couple of my soldiers who are now recruiters.
Just call a recruiter, right?
But if take that out of the equation, and yes, I think it's absolutely worth it.
In the equation, it's a no.
Correct. But I just think that that's why I stayed in for a very long time was the insurance. Not the only reason, but one of the biggest reasons is because it's a guaranteed paycheck twice a month, and your benefits for you and your family are taken care of for the most part, you know.
And the thing too is, I think it's one of the, unless if you get really good at some sort of a service job, whether it's, you know, welding, HVAC, electrical, restoration, something like, it's one of the only jobs that I think within 4 to 5 years you could make really good. Like you get up to E5, even E4. You make really good, you're making 60 plus, depending upon if you're on, you know, deployment. As soon as you start getting BH, that's the big, you know, oh God, I got an extra 1,200, or if you're in San Diego, it's like 2,500, but you make really good money in the military. And I mean, just as you guys said, it allowed you to pursue trying to own your own business while her paycheck covered everything. I mean, you make great money in the military.
I've got a friend that's worked for UPS for like 6 years. He makes $150,000 a year. Do you still agree that it's worth joining the United States Armed
really?
Forces?
Like for real?
I do. I think
The average UPS driver makes $49 an hour. It's $100,000 a year. Do you still think it's worth it financially?
Oh, what?
I just feel like it's
$49 an hour?
I don't know.
The average.
The stability part is where it's at. Like with a retirement.
You think UPS is getting rid of drivers faster than the military?
Well, for someone that
I hate to be combative here.
why are you cutting me off?
Sorry.
For someone that doesn't know what they want to do, for someone, what if UPS isn't hiring? Like what? I mean, that's one of the.
If somebody that doesn't know what they want to do you recommend that they go sign a contract for 8 years to do that if they don't know they want to do it?
I don't know.
Thoughts?
Well, all of us are recruiters, so we've.
You guys are fucking Damn it! I said it. It's only my second F-bomb. At least that I counted. Put the tally mark. Number 2. I'm going to finish there. I think you guys are brainwashed, and I think the United States Armed Forces financial benefit and stability is not even a fraction of what it was 22 years ago when we joined. When I joined 22 years ago, health insurance to the likes of TRICARE was very hard to come by, and most businesses did not offer healthcare like that. Since then, the civilian job market has gotten so competitive that any viable company, any real company is offering good enough health benefits. The big ones are offering great health benefits, paying all of it. Now, there's some copays. There's some stuff that you got to pay more of, you know. But if you look at
federal holiday off for 4 days,
no, quite honestly, the absolute opposite is true. Meaning, UPS, in order to make that $100,000 a year, you have to work every federal holiday. Quite the opposite, actually. But as a 22-year-old, should you give a flying shit if you have a federal holiday off? No.
Correct.
You're selling easy. And I think the reality is we need to be selling difficult and challenging and sacrifice to the kids. And if you don't know what you're going to do and you don't know what you want to do, going and starting off making $32,000 a year as a soldier when you can make $38,000 a year working weekends at Chili's, I don't think financially it's a really smart option anymore. And the United States Armed Forces is not keeping up with the inflation, if inflation is real, of course. Even with the benefits. So I don't know, man. I used to think, because it's done so much for us, but times have changed so much.
well, I'm going to work for UPS when I retire.
Right?
So
Well, your ass better be prepared to be driving till 10 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve, because that's what's going to happen if you want to go work for UPS. But you probably get Christmas Day off. I don't think drivers are delivering on Christmas Day.
no.
Nah, you get Christmas Day off. Yeah, I think a message to our young audience or the audience who doesn't know what they're going to do. Man, there are so many good options out there to go drive for some of these big woke ass, punk ass corporations, if you're going to go deal with a woke corporation, don't contract into it for 8 years like the armed forces will do. A lot of people, a lot of employers will offer good enough health benefits. Guess what? Guess what you didn't need when you were military service age, from the age of 18 to 28. Guess what you didn't need? Healthcare.
Yep.
Because the lowest level of healthcare
And
benefits.
anyone who does need
Right.
it is not allowed to join the army.
Right. Exactly. It's shenanigans.
You know, it's funny.
So
Not once have we mentioned college,
I wonder why we didn't mention college.
right? It's because you don't fucking need it nowadays.
Because it's stupid.
It is.
It's as stupid as the insurance benefit in the United States Armed Forces. It's as stupid as the security on a job.
I mean, there's a diamond in the rough with like Reese or people who become doctors.
So you become a doctor. The Army pays for you to become a doctor. You devote effectively 8 years or maybe 5 years remaining of medical school that you have when you make the decision. Then you join and you go through the entire rest of your time through your clinicals and everything in the military. You go to OCS, you go to or OBC or whatever it is. You go to your officer candidate school, your officer training. You go to all that, and then once you're a doctor and you're a full doctor, now you've got 8 years to serve because your service doesn't actually start until then. So all in all, when it's all said and done, you've got 14 years of service under your belt, and at that point you realize, holy shit, I joined so the Army would pay for my, I don't know, $200,000 worth of medical school debt, maybe $250,000, whatever it is,
You can pay off.
that you can pay off in 1 year as a doctor. I think there's a benefit, but again, I wanted to bring some value to the audience. I think times have changed so much from my dad's old perspective and perception of the Army, where, you know, all else fails, you can fall back on the Army. But if all else fails, dude, there's always going to be a job that you can make $50,000, $60,000 at if you're willing to go grind. If you're willing to go grind and work your ass off and work nights and work weekends and work 362 days a year, you can make a ton of money doing hard work. But you don't have to join the armed forces for it.
Unless you're really patriotic and just want
That's
to go
a-
serve your country.
So full circle back to it. I would not join for the financial benefits, although they're there. What did we highlight? Did any of us talk about the money when we talked about our value we gained or our military experience? No, we talked about dead skin on a submarine for 63 days. We talked about friendships and leadership and experience, and we talked about everything but money, which lets you know the armed forces probably isn't the best path for financial gain.
Even the retirement, unless you make it big and stay in forever.
I mean, yeah, what's a 30-year sergeant major making on retirement? Oh, 50 grand? I mean, hopefully they get benefits and health care or medical, what do they call it? Disability? Sorry, I lost my words.
I did too.
Disability, and they get, 100%. Then what are they getting? 70 grand? I mean, it's only of their base pay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either, man. You devote 30 years to something, you sure better want more than, or better get more than $70,000 a year to spend after 30 years of dedicating your life to it. I think there's a lot of good that comes with it. If I was going to do it, I would probably say either join for all of the other things except for financial gain.
Experience.
Yep. Do a short term or two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 years. Pop smoke, get out of there. And go drive a civilian career somewhere, or do the Army Reserve or the one of the reserve components. This way you can still drive a full career on the civilian side and still gain the military experience. And I would do it young. And if you're going to go into the civilian sector young, or into the civilian sector, do that young too. When you come out of school, come out of high school, go get a serving job, skip college. Unless you're going to do it for the friendships and the experience, in which case, go waste your money. Get a serving job, do it for a couple years, and when you're 20, get your ass into the workforce and start grinding on a career and stick with it for 20 years. I think if I would have got into a career when I was 20 and stuck with that Well, I basically did. Yeah, I think that's the benefit. I think that's the biggest benefit is get into any career field and stick with it for 20 years. That's the biggest benefit of the Army is people get in there and they feel trapped. And then when they want to give up, they can't because they're contracted for the next 6 years and they've already re-enlisted for another 4 years and they've already re-enlisted for another 6 years or whatever. So they're making a long-term commitment. I think ultimately, if you want to have success, make a long-term commitment to whatever job you are in. If you're excelling in it, you're growing in it, it's always going to suck at times. But the long-term commitment is what pays off in the armed forces.
Yep.
That's what it is. They contract your ass in. It's like going to the gym. The gyms that contract you for long-term are the ones that are more successful. Why? Because then you can quit and you still have time and you got to come back because you're paying. Unless you're me, then you just pay for 14 months and you don't
I was just about to put that in there.
Whatever. I'm a different breed, though. Anyway, all right. Anything else we want to talk about? You. Let's wrap this thing up. We still got whiskey to drink, so we could still hang offset, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Salute. I love you, babe.
Love you.
It was great having you. You didn't know this, but I interviewed you today.
I did know this.
You did? You figured it out? Halfway through, did you figure out that I was interviewing you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Instead of having a conversation? Ian, good job on the top secret interview.
Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you
Thank you very much.
covering for us. Thanks for sticking around. If you did this long, we appreciate you all. We appreciate your love and support. Smash that like and subscribe button. Like and share us on all of our things. You know what to do. If not, go back to the last 50-something episodes and check those out.
We got
Appreciate
a little girl
you.
waiting outside for us.
Appreciate you. Yeah, there she is. Appreciate your love and support. And as always, find your purpose, serve your purpose, and protect your purpose, people. Peace.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Got this part out.